Hey everybody, Derek here. I'm here to bring another video for The Walking Dead Season 5. I'm sorry I couldn't make my video last night. I had a very terrible headache. I could barely get through Walking Dead looking at the bright screen, but I'm better now, and I'm going to do my video for my video review for last night's episode, Self-Help. My first impression is, wow. I was very impressed. Definitely a better improvement from last week. I mean, I'm not going to say that last week's episode wasn't good, but it was kind of one of those episodes where you had to wait for the good stuff, building up everything. And I think that this one definitely made up for a lot of things that we missed out of the last episode, like very good zombie action, shocking plot twists, stuff like that. I think that we definitely needed that this week, and I think that we got it. So I'm going to give my thoughts. Just in case you have not watched the episode, there will be spoilers as I will be talking about the plot. So if you have not watched it, do not watch the video or else you will be spoiled. Okay. So first off, I just want to say that I actually thought that this episode was going to suck. And I'm eating my words, thankfully. A lot of the things that I worry about is, when they split the group up, it really, sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's not a good thing. I wasn't really a big fan of them splitting them up the way they did in season 4. And when they split up again, I was like, really? But you know something? It worked out better because they're doing a lot better of a job of moving the plot forward and really doing a great job of looking into these characters again, which is something that's really important that I really liked. And I really loved the Abraham flashbacks. They were amazing. That is how you do a flashback, not like episode 1's flashbacks with Terminus. That ain't how you do it. This episode, perfect flashbacks. We knew that Abraham in the comics, if you've read the comics, it does explain Abraham's story. And Abraham was with a group. He went out on a supply run, and when he came back, he found out that his wife and his daughter had been raped by the other survivors, and he killed them each one by one. And in this one, he did the same thing. And I mean, just the portrayal of him beating that guy with the soup can, turning around, and his family's horrified. Really great acting on the part of Michael Cudlitz and the people that played his family. Very intense scene. And it definitely shows, Abraham's temper can get the best of him. Now, I'm not going to say he wasn't justified in doing what he did. Believe me, I think that he was very justified in doing what he did. But when you lower yourself that much to being the person that does those cruel things, people may, there's a fine line and you may have crossed it. I mean, again, it's kind of like when the hunters were killed the way that they were killed in the 3rd episode. There's a big difference between shooting each one in the head with a bullet and hacking them to death with machetes and knives and things. People are going to look at that in a different way. But I think they really did a great job of portraying, how much Abraham, has a temper, which we've seen, and how it all came to a head. And then, the way that it transferred into the way he was feeling this episode was just insane. We at least know a little bit more about why he's so intense, which is something that I think a lot of us wanted to know about, because really, you get really, shocked when you see just how intense he is about the mission, but you realize that he's really just, that's how he looks at the mission. It's a way to give him something to live for. Because at this point, as you saw in the flashbacks, he was getting ready to blow his brains out in front of his, dead family members when he found them dead in the last flashback. And it was only because Eugene came along that he got saved. And he decides, all right, he was probably thinking, well, I'll do one last great thing before I die. So he kills the walkers and saves Eugene. Eugene tells them about the mission, and you see that Abraham at that point, when he lost his family, had nothing else to live for. Now he has the mission, and that's all that he wants to focus on. And you see that throughout the episode. I mean, his drive to just keep going and going and going, even after the bus crashes and they come upon that herd, that you just can't go through because, you saw the fire truck had all that, all those zombie guts in it. You saw that, he could get so irrational because of the mission, because he just wants to forget about what happened to his family and what he did. That's definitely going to weigh on him for the rest of his life, no doubt about it. And the mission gives him something to distract him. So it was definitely nice to see him explored in that way. And this episode really did more focusing on Abraham, Rosita, and Eugene than we've ever seen it before. And Glenn and Maggie had their one little scene in the library, which was really nice. It was nice to see the way that they were thinking. But I was glad that it focused a lot more on our new survivors, because when you introduce new people into the group, you look at all the characters, and when I found out that Abraham, Rosita, and Eugene were getting introduced, I was excited because I love them in the comics. But you have to give them reasons to be likable, and I think that they were starting to build on that last season. But I think that now with this episode, they've really added a lot more depth to each one of them, and I really liked it. And I think that, boy, I'll tell you, the humor. I thought that it was like a very great balance of humor and zombie action and just shocking moments in the story. I mean, it started out, and I was laughing my rear end off when Tara says, "Yeah, let's get bikes because bikes don't burn." Great humor there. You have Eugene being absolutely hilarious, even though he's not trying to be. Just we like him as a character because he kind of has that comedic relief side to him, where he just, that's classified, and oh, I got the mullet, it's great to have those different kinds of characters in there. And Eugene, this was definitely a great episode for Eugene. I really liked how he got his first, well, they say that it was his first kill, but he's actually indirectly kind of killed zombies back in the 12th episode. No, it was the 11th episode, excuse me, Claimed. Whenever they were at that cornfield and he shot with that machine gun. I'm sure a couple of those bullets killed, some walkers. I think they did. But this was his first, up and close, hey, that we saw, and he saved Tara, and Tara really appreciated that. And I like their scene in the library. I mean, that's another thing that happened, it confirmed that Abraham and Rosita are in some kind of a relationship, and the scene there where they're making love, and Rosita's like, he's watching us again. I could not contain myself. I thought that was just absolutely hilarious. That was great. And I really love the way that Tara walks in on that. And, Eugene's like, cards on the table. I was looking. But hey, it's a victimless crime because, hey, it gives me, nice pleasure. It gives them pleasure. And life is great. And it was great. That was very good writing on the part of the Walking Dead writers. I really liked that. But we also saw, a lot more serious things in the episode as well. Eugene reveals, which kind of gets your mind thinking a little bit right then and there, especially even if you're not a comic reader, where he admits, the bus crashes, and we're like, what the heck happened? I mean, Abraham seemed fine driving it, and we find out that Eugene put glass inside of, I think it was the fuel tank or something like that. But whatever happened, it blew. And Eugene admits that to Tara. And he kind of plays it off as like, well, if we get to Washington and I can't cure this thing, then I'm useless. And Tara tries to let him know, it's like, no, you're not. We protect people. And, that's the thing, is it's really about balancing between, looking out for each other and, the strongest will survive and only the strongest will survive. And I think that Eugene is in a group that will protect people, which he doesn't realize that because he wasn't at the prison. But when you saw that they had the prison, they let elderly people in there. They let the young, kids in there. I mean, they did not discriminate as long as you weren't, some crazy person or, somebody who did something like the governor, then you were prison material and you were going to be able to contribute in some way. Now, I can understand that, they may feel differently when they're outside, but, Rick's group would definitely nonetheless still protect Eugene, in my opinion, even though he doesn't really have a lot that he can contribute physically, he's still smart. And in the comics, we see that, he has a lot of skills. And he says in the episode, I just know a lot of stuff. And it's true. I mean, he does have things that will be beneficial, down the road. And it shows in the comics. And I have no doubt if they continue with his character, then they can explore that later on. But you saw, like, when those walkers came out of the fire station, he gets up there and he gets on the fire hose. Great ingenuity. I mean, who would have thought that? I mean, if you wouldn't have seen it in the trailer, because it is a scene in the trailer, who'd have thought you could kill zombies with a fire hose? But those suckers, the water coming out of there actually can kill people. I mean, it's no joke. I've read things about that happening. One of the actresses in the 1970s movie Carrie, the adaptation of the Stephen King novel, somebody had like a perforated eardrum for almost a year, I think, because of that fire hose scene in the water hitting them. So it's no joke. That water can definitely do some harm, and I really liked how they used that. And Abraham just coming out there and like, I have been to X amount of fairs and one goat rodeo. I have never seen anything that cool. And I think that Abraham was trying to, find the humor. And I think that one of the things that we see in him is that he's trying in any way, shape, or form to form a distraction from what happened between him and his family. Because that's definitely a very sad scene. And I definitely can see that, he's trying to find any way to distract from that, whether it's seeing something really cool or funny, killing walkers, we saw last season, he smiled when he killed walkers. And I think in some ways, he treats it as let's play a game, it's a big video game, let's kill the walker, and I think that he tries to, make that fun or make that interesting so again that he can forget about what's happened, which a lot of people need distractions in life when they lose somebody. It's best to, do your grieving, at least, from some studies, that they say. It's best to do your grieving, but then try to find distractions from it. And I think that's what Abraham's doing. But of course, a big bombshell at the end of the episode. I did not see this coming. I mean, I mentioned it in my self-help predictions that it might come out, but I really did not think that it was going to come out in this episode that Eugene is not a scientist. He's a phony. Which, if you read the comics, it's the same thing. But by the time that you find this out, they're near Washington. They had gone part of the way through the journey, and the way they find out is that the radio that Eugene had that he was basically using to communicate with Washington that he claimed falls open and it breaks and there's no battery in it. And Rick goes, "What the heck?" And Eugene's like, "All right, you caught me. I'm a phony." And it all goes south from there. But they were already in Washington. Now they're only in Georgia still. And heck, they just find out there's no cure. Eugene's a phony, and Abraham has been wasting his time. And I can definitely understand. I can understand both sides. I mean, I understand that Eugene definitely looks at the Walking Dead situation kind of like he does any other problem. You notice that Eugene isn't like other people. I mean, he's just different. I don't know how to explain it, but he's just different. He thinks different. He feels different. And I think he looked at the equation. He realized I'm a fat piece of crap is probably what he was thinking. That Josh McDermott was alluding to that last night on Talking Dead. Eugene is probably thinking that's who he is. He's not worth anything. And if he doesn't tell this lie, if he doesn't make up this story, who the heck's going to help him? And it makes sense. There are certain people out there that just won't do anything. If he would have ran into the claimers, heck, he'd have starved. Nobody was going to feed him. If he'd have ran into the governor's group, I mean, yeah, they would have taken him in and they probably would have used his knowledge kind of like they did with Milton. But, would he have really gone out there? I don't think so. And you just look at some of the groups they run into, and yeah, you're right. They would not have taken care of Eugene. He's just lucky enough that he ran into somebody like Abraham and eventually Rick's group. But I understand that he kind of has this feeling about the way that people would perceive him, so that's why he invents the lie. And I can understand Abraham's reaction to it. I mean, Abraham has pretty much wasted his time. He feels like his last purpose in life was crushed right in that last moment. And I don't know whether he ever doubted whether this mission was real or not, whether he was skeptical, but he wanted to believe it because it was the only thing keeping him alive. And that just got ruined. And I can understand his reaction to that too. He popped Eugene a freaking right in the head, and Eugene falls flat on his face, and he's in trouble. The way that his head hit the pavement, he hit flat. I mean, he didn't even put his hands out to stop himself. So Eugene's definitely in a bad way right now, and Abraham, realizing that his temper got the best of him, which again, I can understand, Eugene did deserve a little beating. I mean, I'm not going to say that he doesn't, but you can see that that definitely is going to have repercussions later on down the road. And I'm going to do a separate video analyzing what I think is going to come out of that Eugene Abraham situation. So stay tuned for that. At this point, I'm going to bring my video to a close. Again, I think it was a great episode. They really surprised me coming in and doing that. Walking Dead Season 5, definitely off to a great, great start. Almost as, I mean, I'm still trying to decide whether Season 3 or Season 5 got a better start, because honestly, both seasons impressed me. And, it definitely was nice to see, like, this shocking, plot lines in several of the episodes. A lot of the character developments, they are really doing a great job, and I'm really looking forward to, seeing how this season ends up. I'm impressed. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you all have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I have more videos coming. And if you have any video topics that you would like to suggest, don't be afraid to do so. I'm always open to suggestions. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.